You are welcomed by the channel History and Storytelling, and we begin. This weekend started like any other Saturday. Bob woke up later than usual, kissed his wife, with whom he had already been married for 17 years. She lazily waved him off, muttering, "Bob, let me sleep. There's no peace from you at night, nor in the morning, and the girls have probably already woken up. They're already grown up." Exactly, grown up. They won't come into their parents' bedroom. "Go away, I'm sleeping." Bob got up, threw on his robe, and headed to the shower. On the way, he heard noise and squeaking from the room of the eldest daughter, Elsa. As he understood, her sister Laura had come in and was pulling her out of bed. He didn't interfere. After showering, he dried off thoroughly, got dressed, and went to the kitchen. The daughters, after their little war, were already sitting at the table. Elsa asked, "Are we being fed today? Are you hungry or something? We still have to go to school." "Girls, what school? You're on New Year's holidays. You're going to Grandma's. Go wash your faces and brush your teeth. The porridge will be ready in 15 minutes. Bob managed breakfast for his daughters quite quickly. At that moment, Stacy came out of the bedroom and went into the bathroom. The daughters sat down at the table and had breakfast. Soon, freshly washed and brushed, Stacy came in. Bob looked at his wife, dressed in his shirt. Even after all these years, just one glance at her caused men to stir. Bob admitted that she was beautiful. Although every man has his own idea of feminine beauty. He loved her, but an insurmountable barrier had arisen between them. Stacy took her place at the table and said to the daughters, "Finish eating and start getting ready slowly. Today, Dad will take you to my mother, your grandmother. You'll spend the holidays there." "Mom, you promised we would go to the ski base for a week. We already prepared our ski suits, and we wanted to celebrate New Year's all together." "Girls, in life, things don't always turn out the way we want. But we will definitely go to the ski base during spring break. There won't be any snow by then. Or we'll go to the Pamirs. They say there's snow in the mountains there all year round. All right, done eating? Go get ready." Bob didn't like the annoying pushing of the kids to the mother-in-laws, especially the lie about the trip. The one he himself, truth be told, had been preparing for. He noticed some kind of cooling in their relationship. His wife had started to drift away from the family. This coincided with the appearance at her work of a new commercial director, Donald Nikolaevich. And Bob knew that he had dated Svetlana back in university. Only she hadn't bothered to tell him about her new boss. That worried him. But he believed that his wife would find the strength not to stoop to the level of a fling with Donald. He even thought about meeting with him and having a talk. But he decided that would only make things worse between him and his wife. Nevertheless, he tightened control over his wife as much as possible. But as far as he had found out, nothing had happened yet. Except for light flirting. His wife's decision today to send the children to her parents meant that something was about to happen during these long New Year holidays, and most likely, it would be announced to him. He was ready for a conversation, and in order to reflect on what she would say to him, he constantly kept the voice recorder at the ready. By the time all this had started, his tears had dried up, and his heart had hardened. He saw that his wife was destroying their family. Today, what mattered most to him was saving his daughters. Bob understood that today there would be a conversation. Stacy was supposed to somehow get rid of him. Kira had already warned him about it. But this Stacy didn't know. Before the conversation began, Bob went into the bathroom, washed his hands, turned on the voice recorder, and hid it in his breast pocket. Then he returned to the kitchen and sat down at the table. For a moment, Stacy didn't say anything. Then she looked at Bob, smiled at him, but the smile instantly disappeared. Taking on a very serious expression, she announced, "Bob, you and I urgently need to discuss something." The way she said it left no doubt. Bob wasn't going to like this conversation. But he didn't show it, and looking up from his food, asked, "Is something wrong?" "Bob, everything's fine. You know that I love you. I love you, and only you. And I have for many years. You've been a wonderful lover and husband, an excellent father to our girls. I want to live with you until we grow old." "Uh-huh. And die on the same day? So what's stopping us? You know, I'm a sociologist by education. Out of those who graduated from our university, only a few actually work as sociologists. They use population surveys and mathematical data processing to find out what's really going on in society, uncover the causes of negative phenomena, and provide recommendations for improving the situation. Even though I work as a marketer, and as a sociologist I also conduct marketing research, I still keep a close eye on all sociological news. Stacy, this all sounds vague and very complicated. Can you just get to the point? I read about what leads to the breakdown of marriages, and I want to minimize the chances that something bad will happen to us. And what bad thing could happen to us? We need to be as proactive as possible. Then we'll be able to avoid some fairly common traps that lead to failure in marriages. Stacy, let me guess. You read some new nonsense from another smartass who just wants attention. I don't believe in those kinds of sociological conclusions at all. Tell me, what kind of nonsense are you talking about? Stacy snorted indignantly and said, Bob, I'm being completely serious. I'm worried about our family, about the possibility that we could lose each other. The way we're behaving today will lead to us drifting apart, and eventually, as a result, we'll end our relationship. All right, tell me what we should do. I'm a technical person, not a sociologist. Maybe we should go see a psychologist? I thought about that for a long time, and came to the conclusion that we need a creative break from our marriage, while we both explore our interpersonal and sexual nature. We need to get to know other places and people, so that when we reunite, we'll have a much broader understanding and life experience to support our relationship. And how long is this supposed to last? A month? A year? No, come on. I think 2 weeks of holiday break will be enough. So that's why the kids, instead of going to the ski resort, are going to your mother's? We could have sent them to your parents too, but you've already arranged it with your mom. In other words, in order to spend the long weekend with your lover, you, two specialists in the field of sociology, came up with this obvious nonsense to get my consent. Did I understand everything correctly? Bob was completely stunned by Svetlana's approach. Her brazen proposal shocked him, although he wasn't very surprised since he had already suspected something. But her words hit him hard. Stacy, still not connecting with what Bob had said, explained, I have no idea who this lover you're talking about is. I know you don't like this, but you'll see. Nothing between us will change. I'll make sure that you are insanely happy when we reunite. Yes, it's selfish of me, but I have a reason that justifies me. I want to live with you into old age. You don't understand it now, but once you do, you'll apologize to me. You don't understand who I'm talking about? I'm talking about your new commercial director, Donald. You had a big love affair with him in university, but when he got tired of you, he dumped you. After that, you quickly switched over to me. Right now, not a single word has been said to me about your former classmate becoming your commercial director. And in other matters, you're wrong too. What am I wrong about? You're wrong when you say that nothing will change. Everything will change. Actually, no. Everything has already changed. What has changed? Your attitude toward me and our children has changed. Everything in our family is changing today. Bob, I love you, and I don't know what you've imagined. Stacy, I don't know how you'll explain our divorce to your parents. How will you explain it to Elsa and Laura? What will they think about their parents divorcing? Bob, what are you talking about? We're not getting divorced. And what's going on between us doesn't concern our parents. You need to understand, sociology is an exact science. Don't try to bend science to a theory you and your lovers came up with. I see that you're planning to complicate everything. That's why I'm going to put it all off. You'll take the girls, come back, and we'll sit down and solve this problem. Stacy, we're not going to solve anything. I'm just leaving. But you can't do this to me. I can, and I will. I'm not going to do what you proposed to me. I think you would have done the same. And I didn't plan anything like you did. My decision to get divorced is spontaneous. I just made it now. But Bob, I said I was canceling everything. Yes, you did. And then you said that when I return, we'll sit down and talk about it. So once again, you'll try to get me to agree to this freedom for the long weekend. And while I'm taking the girls, you'll consult with your Donald. At that moment, Arya came into the kitchen and said, "Dad, we're ready to go." "Very good, girls. I'll be ready in 5 minutes." Bob quickly got dressed, took his laptop, grabbed his backpack, and without saying goodbye to his wife, went downstairs. There, he started the car and let it warm up a little. The girls got into the back seat and they drove off. From the window, a bewildered Stacy watched them. Bob carefully pulled onto the main road. In the car, everyone was silent. Finally, Elsa said, "Dad, but Grandma lives in the other direction." "I know, sweetheart, but you were promised a ski resort, so that's where we're going now." "And where are we going to stay there?" "We'll figure something out." "Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced?" "Why do you think that?" "Dad, we heard everything when you were arguing in the kitchen this morning, and I'm on your side." "What about you, Laura?" "I'm for Dad too. But where are we going to live?" "Girls, we're going to live at my mother's place. I'll take you to school. I'll pick up your textbooks and clothes. For now, let's throw all the silly thoughts out of our heads and go have some rest. You've earned it." Stacy, watching the car drive away, grabbed her phone and started calling Donald. He picked up right away. "Donald, it's Stacy. I have a problem." "Speak. Don't be afraid. I'm alone." "Has your wife already left?" "She's leaving in the evening. Right now she went to the store, probably getting ready for the road." "What about you?" "He didn't act the way we expected. He didn't believe me." "Who are you talking about?" "My husband. I offered him, just like we agreed, to separate for 2 weeks." "And what did he say?" "Turns out, he knows about you and our relationship back in university. He said he's going to get a divorce." "That's bad. Very bad. This will cause a huge scandal. Everything will reach the office gossips, and from them, it'll get to Kira." "To Kira? I'm not interested in divorcing my wife. And you never were interested. Then tell me, what should I do now?" "So, has your husband already come back?" "Number. He's supposed to take the girls to my parents and come back. I'm sure he'll come home and won't go anywhere. Tell him that you've decided there will be no temporary separation." I told him that, but he didn't believe me. He thinks I'll try to convince him when he comes back to agree with what I proposed. "When is he coming?" "I think in about 3 to 4 hours. Then that's what we'll do. Tell him you've made a decision. There won't be any separation. Right now, our main goal is to calm down this outburst of his, and under no circumstances should this get to our office. Otherwise, we'll have no peace there." Stacy ended the call. Now that she had Donald's support, she felt better. Thinking for a moment, and remembering the saying that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, she decided to set the table. And to avoid bothering with cooking, she got dressed and went to a cafe, where she ordered several dishes to go. She took out a bottle of wine, placed a corkscrew next to it, set out 2 wine glasses, put the food she'd bought into the microwave. Then she went to the living room, turned on the TV, and sat in a chair. She began to think. Was this short fling with her former lover really worth the destruction of her family? After all, now it would be incredibly difficult to convince her husband of anything. And it was unclear what he knew about her and Donald. She shouldn't have kept it from her husband, that her former classmate had become their commercial director. She should have known he'd find out sooner or later anyway. And now it turned out that Bob knew both about her past relationship with Donald, and about how Donald had dumped her. Which, in fact, was true. Back then, Donald had just disappeared. And now suddenly, he reappeared. When Stacy found out he would be their commercial director, she suddenly softened. Although she perfectly understood that it would be just a fling, nothing more. Their very first one-on-one conversation confirmed it. He had said, "Swetka, I always liked you, but I can't risk and destroy my family. Although I'm not ready to give up seeing you. Everything has to be very secret. You're married too, as far as I know." And now life had shown her just how foolish her decision had been. Even though during their office talks they tried to give their idea a scientific foundation. It turned out they had overlooked something. 4 hours had passed. Bob still hadn't returned, although by that time, he already should have. Stacy dialed her mother's number. She didn't pick up right away, but eventually answered. "Yes, daughter, I'm listening." I just called to see how things are going over there. What's going on here? It's winter in the yard, it gets dark early. Grandpa and I are just sitting around arguing. And what are you arguing about? Oh, it's just out of habit, like old folks. He drank a shot, and I told him not to. And he still found where I hid the bottle from him. And how are you all doing? When are you bringing the grandkids to visit? From the conversation with her mother, Stacy understood that Bob hadn't shown up there. After finishing the call with her mom, she called Bob's parents. His father, a retired military officer, answered. Stacy, I'm listening. Hello, James. I just decided to call to see how you're doing. Stacy, don't lie. You're looking for Bob and the kids. He warned us about that. So, he was at your place? No, he didn't come. He called. He said you two are getting divorced. That's nonsense. No one is getting divorced. I agree. We had a misunderstanding, but we're not going to divorce over something so silly. From what I understood, this isn't just between the two of you. It's something going on between you and some guy from your work. James, what on earth did he say? He said that this morning, during breakfast, you proposed a 2-week separation. And when he refused, you said you'd cancel the temporary break, but that you'd talk everything through when he came back. And that's all? Number Bob said he was done with talking, and that he had decided on a divorce. And for now, he left to avoid any further discussion. He won't be back until the end of the long weekend, so you can go on your planned date. Except, I don't have any planned dates. Stacy, that's not true either. Bob knows who you're meeting and when. I even offered to go there with him and sort things out on the spot, to which he replied, Dad, I'm not interested. I have daughters, and they're on my side. And where did he go? That, he didn't tell us. We were so upset, we didn't even think to ask. James, if he calls, please tell him he misunderstood everything. I was trying for our family. Now I see I did something wrong. I don't know, daughter. My old lady and I have been together our whole lives, and even in the hardest times, we never once thought about living separately. Who put this foolish idea in your head? And another thing. If you love another man, why are you torturing everyone? If you're ready to run around with a lover behind your husband's and kids' backs, then just pack up and leave. Don't ruin your own life and everyone else's. Bob will get over it, and maybe he'll even get lucky. He's still young and decent looking, and the girls will be better off with him anyway. James, how can you say that? There will be no divorce. That's what you think. I know my son, but it seems you don't know him at all. I just need to explain everything to him, and he'll understand he was wrong. Do as you wish. If he calls, I'll tell him everything. Stacy dialed Donald's number, and unexpectedly, a woman answered. Hello? Sorry, I need to speak to Donald. And who are you? My name is Stacy. We work together. Yeah, I know, but listen, darling, I kicked him out. And don't call him. He has no phone. Did something happen? Don't pretend you don't know. Because of that cheater and womanizer, I've moved between 2 cities. But I'm not moving again. I like this new house. And where is Donald? How would I know? I threw him out. Maybe he's already at your place. He doesn't know where I live. Come on, he knows everything, including where you live. And he should be with you because he was messing around with you at work. In fact, you weren't the only one. And you should have heard his plans. He intended to keep meeting with all of you while I supposedly went off to the sanatorium. Only I wasn't planning to go anywhere. Bob, meanwhile, was driving with the girls to a ski resort, far from the city. He had some acquaintances among the staff there. On the way, he called one of them. It turned out that Michael, his former university classmate, had climbed the career ladder and become the director of this resort. Bob explained the situation to him and asked if he could take him and the girls in for the winter holidays. To which Michael replied, Bob, anything for you. Will a cabin for 3 do? That's a dream come true. Well then, perfect. I just had a company cancel, and 3 cabins are now available. I'll reserve one for you. That would be great. But I have one request. If someone calls, don't confirm that I'm here at the resort with my daughters. All right, I'll reserve that cabin in my name. When will you get here? I have about 50 kilometers left. About an hour and a half. I won't drive fast. It's slippery. Perfect. I'll set the table in your cabin. At the entrance, say you've arrived to see Fyodor Ivanovich. They'll show you where to go. An hour and a half later, they arrived at the gates of the ski resort. They told the security guard at the entrance that they had come to see Fyodor Ivanovich, and he showed them where to drive. Next to the cabin, there was an open carport with a roof. Bob parked the car there. They grabbed their things and entered the cabin. There, sitting at the table, was Fyodor. Seeing the guests enter, he exclaimed, "Come in quickly. Everything on the table is getting cold. You're always in such a rush. Let my girls freshen up, wash their hands, and take a look around. There are 2 bedrooms upstairs, and one here on the first floor." Elsa and Laura, grabbing their things, ran upstairs. Soon a heated argument broke out over the rooms. Listening to them, Michael said, "They shouldn't have rushed up there. This cabin is meant for 4 people. You have a double bed and your own shower downstairs." My girls went all out. They even made us some shashlik. "Drop your stuff and come on. Let's have a drink to our reunion." "Why are you in such a hurry?" "Tomorrow my wife and her sister are coming. They definitely won't let me drink." "You've never been much of a drinker anyway." "And I'm still not. I could have set the table in the cafe, but I work here and don't want my subordinates to see me tipsy. Besides, I'm an athlete." Bob and Michael were sitting at the table when Elsa and Laura came downstairs. As a result of their dispute, the older sister had given in and let the younger one take the room that, in their opinion, was better. They had already changed into sportswear. Michael admired Bob's daughters. He said, "They're growing into beauties. And where's Svetka? Why didn't she come?" "That's a separate issue. I'll tell you later. Let's have a drink for now. To our reunion." The friends toasted to their meeting and, while snacking, began reminiscing. Occasionally, they were interrupted by Bob's daughters asking questions. Eventually, after eating, Laura asked Michael, "What other entertainment is there at the ski resort?" "Right now there's a dance night going on in the main building." "Oh no, we didn't bring anything for dancing." "There's no dress code there, no rules about what to wear. You can go as you are. I'll call one of my staff members and he'll take you there." Michael made a call, and 5 minutes later, a young man arrived to take Elsa and Laura. After they left, Michael asked, "So, what's going on with your wife? You decided to get a divorce. What made you decide that? Do you remember when I was dating her? There were rumors she already had someone she loved." "Yeah, people talked, but nothing specific. Well, that guy showed up in our city. And what's more, he became the commercial director at the company where Stacy works. They started an emotional affair, which I didn't notice at first. But he has a wife, Kira, and she decided to divorce him. She was the one who warned me about what was coming. And today, it happened. She cheated on you." "No. They came up with the idea that we shouldn't spend the long weekend together. Supposedly, that's necessary to preserve our marriage until old age. I've never trusted sociologists. Sociology is when people who understand nothing about society do some kind of research on it, and then force everyone to live by the laws they supposedly discovered, even though in reality, they just made them up. You're right about that. They made up a whole theory just for me too." "So, what did you decide?" "When I talked to her, I realized that continuing life together would be impossible, and I made the decision to divorce. And now? Nothing much. I'll figure out how the process works. Here's what. We have a group of people arriving tomorrow. They're lawyers. They have an office in the city center. I'll ask them to help you. Now come on, pour us a drink." Closer to 11 o'clock, Elsa and Laura returned from the dance. The ski resort staff member took the director's instructions very seriously and escorted them back to the cabin. Bob arranged a late dinner for the girls. They had a quick snack together and then went to their rooms. Bob sat on his bed, barely holding back tears. It had been a very difficult day for him. He couldn't forget everything Stacy had done. Turning on the voice recorder, he listened to the recording and decided that, given the situation, he had made the only right decision. Stacy never did see her husband return, and she had no idea where he could have gone with the girls. But she remembered what he had said, that promises must be kept, and they had promised the girls a trip to the ski resort. So that's where he must have gone. Most likely, the reservation had been made in advance. She turned on the computer that Bob usually worked on and searched for a long time, but found nothing. He hadn't researched or opened anything about ski resorts in the area. In the morning, Bob opened his eyes when someone knocked on his door. He answered, "Come in." And in they came, his daughters, rushing in with noise and excitement. "Dad, get up. Let's go have breakfast and then hit the slopes. And after that, can we go ice skating? There's an ice rink here too?" "Yes." "And where are we having breakfast?" "In the cafe." "All right. Go wash up. I'll be ready in 5 minutes." They went to the cafe and had breakfast. Afterward, they changed, rented skis, and rode the lift up the mountain. They skied until lunchtime. Then, after changing clothes again, they went back to the cafe. There, they met Michael and his wife. In passing, Michael said, "The company we talked about has arrived. Among them is a divorce specialist. I told him your situation, and he agreed to help. You'll meet him today in my office. There's a computer and printer there. Basically, everything you'll need. And I'll take your girls to the skating rink with my wife and her sister. In the evening, if you don't mind, we're gathering at my place. The girls will probably want to go dancing again. We'll go with them, dance a little, and then head back to our place. And don't forget, we'll be celebrating New Year's tomorrow. Time to start getting the liver ready for the holiday." Everything fell into place. After lunch, Michael and Bob went to his office, and soon a pleasant-looking woman arrived. She was the lawyer. They sat down in Michael's office and discussed everything. Natalia explained to Bob the applicable laws, which he only knew on a surface level. She advised him against making rash decisions about the apartment, explaining, "Understand, your daughters will grow up and start families of their own, and then they'll need a place to live. This way, they'll have their own rooms. But if you move out with them now into a rental, a new husband could appear there later, and court proceedings would become more expensive and complicated. But I can't imagine living with her in the same apartment. Try to imagine it and suggest a property exchange. But for starters, explain to your wife that you are filing for divorce. And when will the application be ready? You're not in a rush. The courts are on a long holiday too. I've got my laptop with me. I'll prepare everything for you, and we'll print it out. Also, you're welcome to contact me at our firm, or you can invite me to represent you during the court hearing." I like that last suggestion. Bob and his daughters celebrated New Year together with Michael, his wife, and her sister in the large hall of the ski resort. The group of lawyers also joined them. Besides them, there were many other vacationers. Music, joy, dancing. Everyone left around dawn. But Bob took his daughters back to the cabin earlier. They were tired and already nodding off. They wanted to sleep. Bob returned to the group, and after everything ended in the main hall, they gathered in his cabin. They sat by the fireplace and eventually all scattered back to their own cabins. The rest of the vacation went as planned, skiing and ice skating. In the evenings, dancing. Eventually, Michael asked, "Bob, how are you feeling? You know, beyond all the fun during the day, there were nights when I really thought everything through. Today I'm more ready for confrontation than ever." The day came when Bob and the girls got ready for the return trip. Before that, he spoke with them, explaining that they shouldn't give up the apartment. They stopped by a shopping mall, bought groceries, and arrived home when it was already dark. Elsa and Laura immediately went to their rooms and began moving things from Laura's room to Elsa's. Right then, Stacy appeared and asked, "What are you up to?" "Dad will live in Laura's room now, and Laura will stay with me, in one room." "But why?" To that, Bob replied, "That's a rhetorical question." "What does rhetorical mean?" "It means you, as a sociologist and expert in murky theories, should know better. Just in case, I'm warning you. I won't tolerate any of your lovers in this house. You can wander around wherever you like. I'm informing you. I'm filing for divorce." After the moving of things and furniture was complete, the girls began getting ready for school. Bob went to the kitchen and started preparing dinner and breakfast for the next morning. Stacy followed and started a conversation. Bob, what's wrong with you? Why has the man I loved disappeared? Have you stopped fighting for me? Fighting? Are you out of your mind? My heart was destroyed by you, by what you planned. I hope everything worked out and you had a luxurious holiday weekend with your Donald. Or did he dump you again? Life in a family isn't a fight. It's mutual respect and trust, not planning temporary separations. Bob, you're wrong again. I said I was canceling the temporary break and suggested we talk about it. And I decided I'd had enough of empty discussions and left. I don't trust you. And now, don't get in the way. I need to feed the kids. But I have something to feed them. And I don't. No matter how Stacy tried, Bob no longer responded to her. She went into the girls' room. Elsa sighed and said, "We need to ask Dad to put a lock on the door." Elsa, Laura, you don't want to see me, do you? You guessed it. You know, I didn't miss you. Laura, what about you? Elsa, don't distract me. I'm getting ready for school. All week, Bob, Elsa, and Laura lived separately from Svetlana, deliberately ignoring her presence. Bob installed locks on the doors of their rooms. He cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner himself for himself and his daughters. On Friday evening, the doorbell rang. Stacy went to open the door. A pretty young woman handed her a registered letter with notification. It was a court summons. Attached to the summons was a statement of claim. After reading its contents, she ran into the kitchen, where Bob was having dinner with the girls, and asked, crying, "Bob, why the divorce? I thought everything would get back to normal between us. I suggest you find a lawyer and discuss everything with them. Talk to your lover. Maybe he'll have some advice. I don't have anyone." And Donald disappeared. He hasn't shown up to work since New Year's. The girls had already finished dinner, went upstairs, and went to their room without saying a single word to Svetlana. Stacy continued, "Bob, I love you and our daughters. How can you not understand that? Why do you hate me? What does your love have to do with it? I loved you, but only until I found out you decided to cheat on me with your old flame, and you didn't even bother to tell me he had reappeared. That's when I realized it was foolish to keep loving you. But I wanted to talk to you, and you didn't come home. You want to talk? Fine, talk. Tell me about your made-up holiday. How are you planning to spend it? I haven't heard your fantastic sociological conclusions, invented by your buddy, in a while. Go on. Tell me your new stories. How did you spend the weekend? Did you enjoy it? I bet it was great that your buddy vanished yet again. All right, let's talk about it." "Bob, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about us." "Sorry. I thought you were going to enlighten me on a new sociological theory, one you and your beau discovered together. But you know what? I don't care anymore. Talking about us only makes sense in the past tense. There is no us in the present anymore, and that's because of you." Bob finished dinner and placed the dishes in the sink. Hearing the clatter of dishes, Elsa came in and said, "Dad, it's my turn to do the dishes today. I just put them in the sink. Did you finish your homework?" "Of course, I did it right after school. And Laura finished hers too." "You know what? Go to your room and tidy it up completely. I'll handle the dishes and then iron your clothes. They're already dry." Stacy, seeing that she was being completely ignored in conversations and no one wanted to talk to her, burst into tears and went to her room. Bob quickly washed the dishes, turned off the lights, and went to his room, where a pile of laundry lay, the clothes he had washed over the past few days that now needed ironing. Before going to bed, Bob entered the kitchen. There, in the dark, sat Stacy. Seeing him, she said, "Bob, everything that happened wasn't planned. It just happened. Donald and I dated in university, and then he suddenly disappeared. No one teased or mocked me for it. Hardly anyone even knew we were together, or that he dumped me. Then, out of the blue, he showed up at our company. We started communicating as colleagues, and one day, he invited me to lunch. At first, it was just lunch, nothing more. Then something changed, but he immediately told me there would be no shady meetings. Everything had to be carefully thought out, with no chance of our spouses finding out about our dates. I agreed, because I understood it was just a fling, with no future. That temporary separation was supposed to be our first date. So that's why you came up with that nonsense, thinking you could feed it to me like it was nothing? I didn't realize how far it had gone, and I agreed to Donald's proposal. Stacy, can't you see he was just playing you? Can you really be that foolish? No, it's just, I haven't heard any compliments from you in such a long time. That I look good, that I'm well dressed, that I have a modern hairstyle. Stacy, don't blame that on me. The fact that I didn't tell you every day how good you look is not an excuse for your affair. So now what? You're ready to start a romance with anyone who says nice things to you. In the following days, Bob was busy preparing for a meeting with child protection and custody representatives. According to his lawyer Natalia, this was inevitable. Their conclusion would essentially be decisive in court, although the children's opinion would also be taken into account. Bob had a lot to accomplish in a short time, and at night when he was alone, he couldn't fall asleep for hours, reflecting on love and betrayal, sorting through his feelings. The most important person in his life had betrayed him, and now he felt anger and pain. All he wanted now was a divorce. There was no doubt about that anymore. He knew for certain he could no longer trust Svetlana. This marriage was history. Bob also had to think about the children. He felt somewhat guilty that the girls had turned away from their mother and were completely ignoring her. Stacy had told him in one of their conversations that no matter what happened between them, the children had nothing to do with it. And now she claimed that, for the sake of the children, they needed to stay married. That it would be better for the girls if they tried to make the marriage work. To that, Bob replied, I believe children should know that their parents love them no matter what. Our girls are not at fault for what happened, and they're mature enough to form their own opinion about us. Besides, I never told them anything. They just overheard you feeding me nonsense about a temporary separation over the holidays and figured it out correctly. Bob, children can't properly evaluate what happened. They don't have the life experience or understanding. Stacy, I'm proud of our daughters. They understood very quickly what's going on between you and your lover. They discussed it with each other, and I don't think their decision came easily. When we left, they were incredibly angry with you. After talking to them, I changed my plans for the long weekend. And really, all my plans for the future. The girls know more about what's going on than you think. The girls hate me. For someone with a sociology degree, you're pretty perceptive. I didn't even expect that. Yes, they know their mother is a cheater. And yes, they hate you for it. You can, of course, try to reconcile with them. But as a sociologist, you studied the branch of psychology that deals with patterns in behavior and human activity. I hope you remember what adolescence is, ages 10 to 16. To refresh your memory, it's called the transitional period, when children move from childlike behavior to adult behavior. They go through serious physiological changes. How you'll manage to connect with them, I have no idea. All the time leading up to their court meeting turned into begging and pleading. Eventually, they met in the courtroom. The hearing was preliminary, and they were given a period for reconciliation. At the end of the hearing, Bob suggested to Svetlana that they sign a custody agreement as part of the divorce. According to his proposal, the girls would remain with him, under his care. After listening to everything that had been said, Stacy replied, I will not sign any agreement. Then I'll be forced to bring this before the court. Go ahead. The court will hear me, summon the girls, and listen to their opinion before making a decision. You do understand this won't go in your favor? Well, that's what you think. Court decisions can be appealed. Well then, good luck. Bob, I know I was a fool. I understand now that what I wanted to do was wrong. But please try to understand me. I love you, and Donald will never again be part of my life. So you've decided to replace him with another man? Well, that's your personal business. It's your life. Don't pick on my words. Then express yourself more clearly. You're a sociologist, after all. Now, excuse me, I'm a bit busy. If you decide to sign the agreement, it must be done in the presence of a notary. Bob's lawyer, who was present during the conversation, said, Bob Stanislavovich, as a general rule, a custody agreement regarding the children's residence does not require mandatory notarization. That's what makes it different from a child support agreement, which has the power of a writ of execution. Although, yes, it is recommended to draft and notarize the document. Thank you. But she doesn't want to sign anything, and that's fine by me. She just won't get anything in the end. The reconciliation period granted by the court expired. Stacy made desperate attempts to reconcile with the girls, but nothing worked. After school, the girls began taking computer science classes. They returned home with their father. After a light snack, they often sat in their father's room to do homework. During this time, Bob prepared dinner and breakfast for the next day. One day, child protection representatives came to visit them. They spoke with the girls, looked at their room, and filed a report. They arrived at the court hearing on time. Bob clarified a few details with his lawyer alongside the girls. Stacy entered the courtroom and took her seat. She had no lawyer but had consulted with a legal service and with her divorced friends. She clearly understood that the marriage could not be saved. During the proceedings, she answered the court's questions with a simple yes or no, without elaborating. At the end of the hearing, Stacy declared that she was renouncing her share of the apartment in favor of her daughters and submitted a deed of gift through the judge. She said she had already deregistered from the apartment and taken some of her personal belongings from her room. What remained, she would collect within a week. She asked for a recess in the court session so she could sign the custody agreement proposed by Bob. After the recess, she additionally stated, "I am willing to voluntarily pay child support to Bob for the children's upkeep, because I understand that the court decision will not be in my favor." To which Bob replied, "To avoid any doubts about where the money I receive in child support is going, I propose that the defendant open a separate bank account for each daughter and deposit the money there. I think when they grow up, that money will come in handy for them." The judge listened to both parties and responded, "Child support and the division of property were not included in the claim, and the court will not consider them. As for the custody agreement and the divorce itself, the court will issue rulings on those matters." The judge then left to make a decision. Soon, Bob and Stacy walked out of the courthouse as a divorced couple. The girls, who had been removed from the courtroom after being interviewed, were sitting on a bench near the bus stop, eating ice cream. Seeing this, Bob said, "Girls, what are you doing?" "Eating ice cream." "It's freezing outside. Couldn't you wait until we got home?" "We took some for home too, and we know that eating ice cream in winter doesn't harm your health. In fact, it can even help with a sore throat." "That's a paradox." "No, Dad. The real paradox is that in summer it's actually easier to catch a cold from ice cream. It melts slower in winter and doesn't drip like it does in summer." "All right. So what did the court decide?" "The court granted the divorce. You're going to continue living with me. Mom is going to open bank accounts for each of you and will voluntarily deposit child support there. But you'll only be able to access the money when you turn 19. "Why 19? "Because that's what we decided." Stacy did move out of the apartment as promised. She moved in with her parents to care for her ailing mother. With Bob's consent, she took the girls to her place once a week, though Elsa and Laura were usually reluctant to go. Once a week, Stacy would also visit the girls at their residence. In the end, Bob remained alone for quite some time. The following New Year, he again went to the ski resort with his now older daughters, practically with the same group, including Katya, the sister of Michael's wife. He and Katya began seeing each other. Though Bob wasn't in a rush to propose, his main priority was still raising and educating his daughters. Katya didn't have children of her own, but got along very well with Elsa and Laura. Though naturally there was a bit of jealousy from the girls at first. Bob treated Svetlana with respect, allowed her to visit the girls, and maintained civil contact. But they were no longer husband and wife, and not even friends. Elsa and Laura grew up without causing trouble for Bob, who surrounded them with fatherly love and care. The appearance of Gwen in their lives only brought the family closer together. Svetlana had a rough year. Her parents died within a short span of each other. Bob helped her with the funerals, but the shared grief didn't bring them any closer. Stacy lived alone for a long time, communicating only with her daughters. Eventually, she began dating a single man who lived in the neighboring building. He was a widower. Donald, meanwhile, never reappeared in the city. No one knew where he had gone. not even his wife Kira, who got remarried almost immediately after their divorce.